obviously we use this test to validate that the profile that we are working on, it's a good one.
That makes sense, because if you reach like the point of launch, and then you're at that point where the audience is not growing, you're not sure if the audience that you close is the right one. I think it's because this exercise that you're explaining was not done, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you would know which targets you should bet most of your marketing budget.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our 10th episode of Game UX Alchemists. As you can see on your screen, we have two very special guests today. So today we're welcomed by Joan, who is a Chief Marketing Officer at Antidote, and by Ali, who is the Head of Market Research. How are you guys?
Good, doing good. Thank you for having us, Alim. Happy Friday, everybody.
Yeah, happy Friday, and thank you for having us.
No, thank you for coming for this specific episode, because we're going to discuss something very interesting. Because in our previous episode, we talked about things like gamification, monetization, right? Different types of playtests before the game is released. But we want to flip the script today and talk about what happens when the game is already released. Of course, unfortunately, not every game achieves success, right? There are some hurdles some games go through. And there is something I want to discuss with you guys, because that's what we at Antidote help our clients, and that's what we specialize in. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So one of the main feedback we get from clients, guys, when the game is released, is that sometimes players complain about games' lack of content, or players either churn or get bored quite easily. And lots of the times we want to help out, see what's the problem, and to do that, we offer like a post-launch playtest, right? And Costa, as our lead UX researcher, I want to turn to you first. In your opinion, what are the best types of studies we can conduct after the game is released to test out what's not working?
Well, first of all, before talking about the best ways to locate the issue, it's that if studios have this problem, it's because they haven't done the previous work, that it's validate the content while they are developing the game. Because if you are checking that what you are doing, it's working with the players, once you launch, you won't have this problem. So that's the first issue for all these developers and studios that have these post-launch problems. The other thing, it's trying to locate where the issue is. And you can do this with, for example, a big market research with a big amount of players to understand, hey, let's talk on my game, so provide me some information. What's the problem? What's working with you? What it's not? To see if it's something in the tutorial that, okay, it's boring because players are not understanding the issue in a more quantitative way. Quantitative. Yeah, so then it's that it's not working the tutorial because they are not understanding the game. It's something that mechanics are becoming repetitive after 2 or 3 hours. So once you have located the big problem, then you can do something more qualitative to understand, okay, the issue's here, but I want to understand exactly what's happening. So I can watch the gameplay of the players to understand their behavior, to understand where are the walls they are facing all the time, their stoppers. And from that moment, you can try to balance a bit the game. But the big issue here is that you cannot change it. While you're developing, you are on time still to make sure that you can do big changes to the game, so you can adapt the experience. But when it's launched, the only thing that you can try to do is balance it, because you cannot do big change. So once players have one experience, others have other, and stuff like that. So the only big solution is starting test testing on development.
And the $1 million question here would be, Costa, you mentioned that we can't change much about the game, but when we do test what can be improved, is it better to do it with the existing or the new players? Or what are the benefits of both scenarios?
I think depending a bit, the first idea is to understand the experience of the players that have already played to see why they are, to understand what are the experience. And then when you want to validate it to a more qualitative point of view, if it's, as I said, if it's more on the tutorial, to see the stoppers, if that's mechanics and stuff like that, it's better to work with players who haven't played to make sure that they are fresh, that they are not biased because they already know the mechanics or they already have experience of some of the parts of the game.
Okay, and the $2 million question now is the one that actually I get a lot of feedback that studios struggle with is recruitment. Let's say, okay, you said we need to find new players who didn't play the game. How do you find them? Or where's the best place?
Yeah, I think there's a way to know how to find players. It's to listen about episode number 8, if I'm mistaken, that we talk about recruitment. No, but also there are services like Until that we have a big quantity of players that can help with all these headache of the recruitment, because anyone that has worked with UX and studies and market research, I suppose it's the same. Ali can correlate that the biggest problem is not the pretest or execution or the analyzing the surveys or analyzing the results, is making sure that you find the players, because people always have something to do, and it's never your playtest or it's never your survey to complete. So yeah, it takes a lot of time. So services like us, it's really helpful for many of our clients.
Yeah. And on this note, I have a question for Carreras, because sometimes, like Costa mentioned, we do find players from our community, but in some special cases, we also paid media campaigns as one of the ways to recruit players. Could you please explain how at Antidote, or what's the process, when do we do it, and how does it work in general?
All right. So yeah, paid media. The good thing about it is that you can set up your target players, like the specific buckets of audiences that your game resonates with, and then you have a bunch of ad platforms that you can try to replicate those to find those buckets of audiences. It's something that, for example, you cannot do with influencer marketing, something like that, right? Because their audience is broad, and you cannot make sure that you're only reaching to those specific types of players. So yeah, for this goal, when you have specific audiences, it's a good resource. You need to have budget to reach those players, but yeah, it's a good way to pinpoint those specific players and reach them. So in this case, would you be asking like once the game is released, or before it's released, reaching those audiences?
In this case, post, after the game is released.
Right. So if it's released, here you would need to see how is the audiences that you thought out were going to perform working out for you. Right? Because if they're not working out, perhaps you need to reach other audiences and see if they will perform better or worse. But if it's a question of reaching your existing audience, then you have multiple ways of reaching them, like through ads, TikTok ads, like Google ads. You have Reddit, which is quite good for the gaming communities. And yeah, it's trying to see also which are the games that compare to yours. So you can also create the buckets of competitor games to reach those audiences. And then it's also a matter of using the creative messaging that matches with your game and audience, because in this case, you might be using like the wrong messaging or the wrong marketing angle that doesn't resonate as well. So yeah, that's actually something that I don't see a lot of people using, which is the playtest results. So using the playtest results, and what were the wow moments from players, the feedback that they gave, what were the key things that they were, that they liked the most, because those things you can take and use them as the key marketing angles or messaging, and position it as like the main USPs of the game, and use them for the messaging of the campaigns. So that's something that I don't see that much people using, and I think it's a good resource.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, why Carreras just had a marketing antidote for the specific reasons of the creative strategies. But Ali, I had a question for you as well. So we talked about what type of studies you can conduct and how, where we can find players. But there is one also component of how do you design the surveys where you're going to ask questions, right? Because the quality of data would depend on the quality of questions you ask. So when you create surveys or want to, let's say, explore or like mine for a specific thing, what is your thought process behind designing surveys, and what should you implement?
Yep. So just going back to the approach at first, I won't go in details of playtesting because is the boss here, but market research wise,
yes,
I would stick to players that have played the game. So we can design a process in which they play and then they come to the survey, which is basically a playtesting and then the survey, but sticking to the ones that have already played and we know we are able to recruit them. So there are different clusters that we can have based on the data that we get in the survey. First thing is just thinking out loud. We need to see if there are people that have enjoyed the game or not. Or is it everyone a high percentage, or is it cases that we find, okay, specific groups, age, gender, and interest are the ones that are bored when playing the game. So we have actually target audience that are wrong, and we need to redefine our marketing strategies. That would be the part. But no, if we see that, no, they are bored already, everyone, then we can come up with other questions to specify which sections of the game are boring, which levels they have got to, or how much they have played. Is it content? Is it visuals that get boring after a while? Meaning even if it's colors and stuff like that, then we can break down everything based on their profile, their age, gender, any data that we catch through the survey or we have through our community, plus the questions that leads us towards finding specific reasons and how we can solve it. So also talking about the solution, I was just, as the guys were thinking of possible initiatives that we can have. This is not antidote based directly. So what I'm mentioning here, as we are mentioning the ones that have played the game already, what can be done is also some social listening, checking on reviews the game has. I think this will direct us towards the points that do have problems. We'll not know about age, gender, and demographics of the ones that have the issue, but we will at least know what the problem is. Then to solve it, we can check on competitors, as also Joan mentioned, which, okay, how have they implemented specific parts of the game which don't have issues?
I see. No, thank you for explaining this. And for anyone interested, Antidote releases like market research on specific games done by Ali. So I highly recommend to read them. You can access them by signing up to our platform. A lot of interesting insights. So thanks, Ali, for doing them. But yeah, thank you for explaining regarding the issue of players getting bored with when the game is released. There's another major issue that happens from the feedback that we receive, is that the audience is not growing right? There is a scenario where the game performed well, right? The reviews are good, everyone is content, but the numbers say the opposite. It's not really growing as much as the studio wants. And obviously the companies will want to investigate why. What are the reasons? And from your experience, guys, that's like a question for everyone here. What are the specific strategies in this instance we can implement to see, okay, the game is performing well, right? The scores are good, but why is the audience not growing?
If this to them, it's more visibility of the game. I think this one.
Yeah.
I think for this, it's not like a simple answer. It's like, oh, you need to do this. Because you need to analyze like the whole thing, like the whole funnel. From the beginning, like the promotional materials. Let's say this is like a PC game on Steam. Like, so as Ali was mentioning, you can analyze the reviews. What is the common theme that you can find there in players? Do we have good reviews? If we have good reviews, then why is it that the game is not spreading? Is it a price thing? That players see the material of the game, the promotional material, and then they perceive it as a game that should be valued at that price. Is it a thing that people visit the Steam page, but the conversion rate that you have is very low compared to the industry standard? Okay, then you know that you have probably a problem of messaging, positioning, and the materials that you're using, how you're communicating the game. And then, let's say that you buy the game, then it's one of those things where, okay, what are the players saying? Going back to, the feedback that they're giving you. So I think that you need to analyze all stages, and to analyze each stage you can do different approaches. But maybe here Ali has some specific, studies that we can use to analyze those things and know, okay, which is the biggest lever that we can change or to get the most outcome.
Yep. So as Joan mentioned, this is exactly the process here. So there is a funnel. If it's mobile, if it's a PC game or anything, they will be more complex or simpler depending on devices, but still we will have the funnel in a good case, which they collect the data actually, and we can understand each step of the funnel from campaign CTRs to getting to purchasing the game. Then another thing that is important here, you mentioned the game is performing well. So we just assume here that the retention is good. So that's a part. Because if it's not, then Casta should jump in. But assuming that the retention is good, we are not getting to that point that they click on download or the purchase button. This means it can be a problem with the campaign itself, CTR problems, the material they are using for marketing, or the channels they are actually using. That's also important because different channels work with different type of game genres and also different devices. Then we get to the page. This is important because we are also recently doing a lot of studies on Steam pages and store pages overall to see the effect of different parts of those pages and the problems to find out. So what we're doing is designing surveys, which brings in a different type of audience, shows them the material, and asks them how they actually get the concept. Is it clear or not? Would they change anything? Is the pricing okay with what they are seeing? So if they are actually seeing this is a good game, I would enjoy it. Why they are not clicking on the purchase button? And we can get a lot of insights on what the reason is when they get to the store page and do not convert. which, for example, in a Steam page, it can be also differentiated in wish list button and then coming to the purchase and stuff like that. So that would be the process to check on it. And then one note I had was regarding the audience and channels. I think that's also important here. We can do different type of researches to find out if they are actually targeting the right audience. That's very important because maybe that's the problem here. And knowing who they should target would be very important.
Yeah, perhaps some of the competitor game audiences are the ones that resonate the best, that then are reaching them, or they're focusing their material on a different audience to the shouldn't. So yeah, that's definitely important.
Yeah, that was actually very insightful. So that was from a market research marketing perspective point of view. Costa, from the UX view, is there anything you can do in terms of either playtesting or validation to help with this question?
I mean, at the end, I think this is more of the John Carell and Ali were mentioning. It's more the visibility of the initial steps of the funnel of the conversion, because if in this scenario we assume that the game is performing well, players are enjoying it, we have already validated during the development, we know that people like it, so there's not much that we can do once they have already experienced it. The only thing that you can do is at the message, hey, if you enjoy the game, invite your friends. But this is not UX, so.
Good. That's amazing.
Also, one thing I wanted to ask to Joan and Ali, we are talking about all this funnel of the conversion, stuff like that. Recently, slash yesterday, it was released the Silksong, Hollow Knight Silksong, and obviously the market is a bit saturated with all big games, and from time to time you have big games that eclipse everyone else. How could you deal with these steps that can affect really your launching or your initial weeks or months of the release?
And usually what publishers tend to do is, find dates where, those things are not overlapping, just to not get their spotlight, covered by other huge games. So that is a common practice that tends to happen. So yeah, that's one of the main things. Like, I don't think that lots of games are going to be releasing the same day as GTA 6, right? Because it's all the attention will be going there. So I think as the first course of action is do some research and when those games are going to be released, and try to find your space there. That's the first course of action.
Cool. If we want to actually check in the problems we already mentioned, also having a plan, iterations like the development life cycle, it would be needed on the market research and validation of concepts as well. Like, I don't mean the game concept itself. It's important to have it for your screenshots, for your name, for anything that you are going to put on the store listing. That's very important to have. Then it comes even before to the ideation part. I would say the first steps that you're taking, it usually begins for most of the teams with market researches, but doing it right is important because, just as an example, think of checking on the market right now. I do see this is not an actual data. I'm just giving an example. So we do see a good spot in the racing games for right now. The competition is not high, and we see racing games are trending. We begin developing a game in that genre, and release next year. So the problem is you have checked on the trends that were for that time, the current trends, but you haven't checked what also Carreras mentioned, you need to find your spot both Steam wise, like this is the good launch date, and also are there any racing games going to be like released at the time that I'm releasing, and how many are going to be released during the time that I'm developing? Is the trend going to be active at that time or not? So this is very important to begin from ideation, knowing the audience, validating each thing that you're going to be using, any concept, any visuals, everything, descriptions, and knowing that the store listing would work best. So as you mentioned, a huge hit. I know they have had a lot of wish lists as well. This is a good sign for Steam games. They can check on the funnel that we already mentioned, tail wish lists before having the launch, making sure they have the number they want, put on the marketing budget to get those wish lists from the target audience that they know that they will convert to payments.
So from what I understood, if 1 year like Mario Kart, Need for Speed, and Forza are releasing their games, don't release a racing game that year as well. No, that's the takeaway I got.
Or maybe release it.
It's what I wanted to ask. Then what do you recommend? Release it during the wave or counter wave, and then do it when there's no so much movement in racing?
That's a great question.
It's actually I would come with real life example here. So one thing that we would do during the time that I was in mobile game sector and the development and publishing side, we would check on Steam games to find current trends and develop games that match those, because the hype was high for those type of games. And then we would bring it to mobile, which worked well in a sense. So this depends on what you're going to do, which device and platform, and how you're going to use the trend. And the timeline of those developments and tests that I'm mentioning were like 2 weeks to a month development. So you wouldn't lose the time of the trends.
I had a follow-up question, actually. You mentioned earlier marketing budgets, which it's not really talked about, right? Because it's almost like user experience, development, right? Blah, blah, blah. But would you agree that also having a budget for marketing materials is also important? Like they also contribute to the game's success after it's launched, or at least building awareness for it?
Yeah, for sure. If you want to validate something, you need to put a budget for it, for sure. I don't mean also only the validation part, but development and iteration of different type of material would need that budget, also testing it. But I would pass to ACC because he knows more of the materials.
Can I give you a real scenario? Sorry, Joan. Let's say Antidote became a studio, we're releasing a game, and then like as a chief of marketing, somebody says, okay, Joan, here's the budget for marketing and awareness. What would be your strategy? How would you use it? And what do you think is the best distribution for it?
Okay, so begin this with the key thing is starting the community from the start, right? Not waiting until it's like 6 months out to launch, and then just trying to, put a bunch of budget or, trying to make it happen because there's a lot of saturation in the market, and you need to start creating like a core community for your game. So that's why we're always proponent of, do iterative playtesting throughout the whole journey from concept to release and then beyond. And what that creates, it's a core community that we're there from the beginning, right? And if you share development logs, right, or updates on how things are going, things are updating, listening to players, well, they're going to be cheering you on right from the beginning, and they're going to feel part of the process. So before we start on any like type of marketing for release, that is something really important, because those might be the players that request their favorite streamer to play the game, right? And anything will help, and having that core community beside you, it's super important. So if a trailer is released, they're going to be the ones, sharing it online on Reddit and commenting, liking, sharing. So that's really important. But then also is trying to create like a marketing plan that it's spread out way earlier than when the launch is supposed to happen. Like you can use like pre-alphas or beta tests or accesses in key dates like Steam Fest or specific dates where people are looking for those types of game phases to test, and to make some marketing pushes or release certain trailers or sneak peeks. So I think that's definitely important. Then, okay, we're done with the game. Let's release a trailer. Let's put a bunch of marketing budget behind it, and let's cross our fingers, right? Because as you're doing all the iterative play testing, you will find the best marketing angles, what resonates best with players, and which are the best audiences that you should tailor everything. And here, if you don't mind, I have a question for Costa about the audiences. Because something that I see a lot is studios that come to us with, we want this specific audience, right? And I don't know if they have validated that the audience for the game is that specific one. So is there a scenario where it would be helpful, and here, I don't know, because I'm not, UX or my thing, but would there be a scenario where you launch a playtest with a set audience and see which kind of player target or gamer profile resonates the best, has the best feedback to find your audience?
Yeah, many creators, as I said, came with their mindset with a one profile. Someone has then done their job and has done concept testing to make sure and they are matching their target with user personas. Others just they follow, as Ali was saying, the trend, and they see that there's a game that's working in some type of demographics. So they think, okay, my game is similar to that one, so the demographics will be the same. And then we have some people that it's no, I'm just doing a game, I don't know. And yeah, for those ones, we do normally what we recommend is trying to do a bigger playtest, broader demographics to make sure that we can have a sample of various profiles, and then from there we can get what it's working and what it's not, and which profiles.
Mm-hmm.
This way you can also see, okay, we have invited this range of age, these countries, and we see that in Australia it's working perfect, but in New Zealand they feel offended. So or you change, or you can only post to Australia because this content, these mechanics, there are obviously it's an example, not a real story.
Of course.
I don't know what anyone there, but yes, obviously we use this test to validate that the profile that we are working on it's a good one.
That makes sense, because if you reach like the point of launch, and then you're at that point where the audience is not growing, you're not sure if the audience that you close is the right one. I think it's because this exercise that you're explaining was not done, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you would know which targets you should bet most of your marketing budget and
yes,
and
and as Ali was said, it's something from the early beginning, from the concepts and everything. If you are starting doing your work, when you have this idea that, okay, I have this concept, let's validate it. And also let's validate it with different profiles to make sure that from the first moment we can find the people that it's matching or resonating with my idea of test. And then if I wanted to make sure that I can insert more profiles, more demographics there, then I should adapt. But my game is focusing on one direction, then yes, let's try to find who I'm resonating with. Because many times, especially more with indies and small companies, that it's like, no, I'm doing my game. Yeah, but who is this game for? No, I'm doing my game. Then you will be the only one playing it because it's a play done for you. But it's not done for an audience. It's done for you to enjoy it. And I think this is one of the biggest issues with many indies. I have this idea. I had this idea since when I was 5 years old. That's a perfect personal project. But if you want to get money from there to make it a business, then you will have to find your buyers.
Yeah. And for indies, I think the point of making a community from the beginning, that's actually the type of a studio that should focus the most on that. They have the lowest resources, and they need those passionate players that were part of the project from the beginning. And I've seen on some indie studios having success with doing even vlogs on YouTube on all the progress that they're making on doing a series, all the progress that they're making with the game, and giving access to each specific. So not make it as confidential of a development, but rather giving limited access to the community that's on Discord, that's engaging the most online, and then people see how the feedback that they give, makes into the game and makes it better. So I think super important for indies. You have an indie program, Antidote, that tries to facilitate that, right? You can have a community that has access to the game and gives you feedback constantly. And because when you're developing a game, you're busy and trying to make it happen. So it's something that can really help.
Nice.
I would actually add a note here as we spoke about the community, target audience, and also post-launch of a game. One thing that we didn't maybe focus on when talking about target audience is that by target audience, sometimes we mean geographics. Like if a game you're testing is not working in the US, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work all over the world. So another thing that can be done, usually for the games that are not going to have huge changes within the gameplay, is localization, and trying it with communities for specific regions like Latin America or Middle East, or the ones that do share a language, who have huge population, and maybe the margins would be different from what is calculated for a specific target country, but I think that would maybe save a game. Yeah, that's all saying.
Thanks, Ali. And one of the last topics I wanted to discuss with you guys is something a bit very practical, is what Carreras mentioned earlier, the soft launches. Right? One of the ways that I think we at Antidote help also is before you do before the big day, you can select few audience, right? That you can almost run a test launch. At Antidote, we did quite a few, right? Obviously, we can't mention which ones, but just if you refer back to those examples, I think it's Costa and Carreras here. What would be the step to organize this? Because I think it'd be quite useful for a lot of studios to test it out. And if you can refer back for the practical ways you did it. And I think one of them, obviously, we can't mention, but it had an animal name in it. That was quite interesting one. So
GTA 6, correct.
And so I would like to hear your thought on this practice and how it can be done.
From a more UX point of view, the soft launch, it's a bit as not so for visibility. It's more like a stress test. It helps you validate that, okay, the experience for the moment that you're launching, the service will be working, everything is working. We won't have any crash if we have a big amount of players. And also it's like this, everything is balanced, okay? It's a validation that everything has been done and validated before, rather than more the visibility point of view that Carlos will probably explain now, I hope. If not, we'll keep private. But yeah, from our side, it's more like, okay, let's make sure that all the previous work has been done. It's like a checklist. Stress tests were done. Yes, let's make it sure. All the experience was validated. Yes, the tutorial is working fine. Yes, okay, then we can publish. Now that's it. For the facility, all yours, Carreras.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Augusta. Here, we've done quite a few of these, and sometimes we've done them very focused on the stress test side of things or the load testing side of things, validating that the infrastructure of the game will hold on during launch. Sometimes we've done a mix, right, Costa? A bit of the UX side of things, as you said, to validate that the main things that are throughout of the game are correct, but also load testing and and for these kind of tests, the way that we organize them is, of course, there's like the marketing side, acquiring those players. It's always recommended, when I was talking earlier about building a community from the start, some key things there is to grow your own channels, right? Not depend on Steam wishlist to notify those players or to use only the announcements channels, but during this whole process, try to grow your own channels, meaning like email marketing, something that some studios don't put it on a priority, but building that audience, it's really important because then you have a direct point of contact with them. It's not something that you post on socials and maybe they see, maybe they not. It has a higher likelihood. So that's really important, and you can make it happen with those soft launches, right? Because you give them a reason to join these newsletters, which is like exclusive access. So it's an incentive, not to just like receive promotional stuff, but other get free exclusive access before release. So those points are really important to leverage and grow the own channels. I mentioned the newsletter, also Discord, right? During those soft launches, usually it's done with thousands of players that we've done, like large scale multiplayer. So it's a great opportunity to also grow these channels before the launch. Right? And so talking here about the marketing aspect and of growing those own channels, but also it's a great opportunity to validate some of the marketing materials. You may have some variations of marketing materials that you think will work, but you know which ones you should bet the most upon launch. So here is a good opportunity to test, multiple variations of those creatives during the recruitment, and see, at the first phase of the recruitment, which ones are being clicked the most, and even by converting the most. Because then you have this intel for launch. You know exactly which things will work best or which things to push. So that's great for the marketing aspect. Doing a soft launch, which helps you validate part of your marketing material. And you can even have perhaps like 2 or 3 trailers that you're not sure which one would be best. So great opportunity to test those out. And once you guiding people to a landing page where they can, sign up there and claim a key. Here is also a good opportunity to test some messaging here, and see, you can do even like A/B testing, like doing a couple of landing page variations and see which one converts best. And in terms of the setup here, this depends on the studio's needs, right? If they want a super confidential, large scale, or if they don't mind start to do some marketing push. So you can mention more about the game, and if people can even stream the game while on alpha, beta, then you have different approaches on the security. I don't know if we should dive into that.
But I suppose that it's more in the soft launch stage. It's more public because you are already like making this. I will launch next week. Let's start with this small community, this small demographics, the typical. It's something from Southeast Asia that it's more cheaper to make sure that everything is working.
I've seen soft launches where they doing a soft launch because they're not sure, right? So they don't want to stand out too much in the confidential way. And others that we are confident about the game, we just want to properly validate it, and we don't mind start to do some marketing awareness. So depending on that, you have a different setup of doing the key distribution and signing NDA, so the process and how you deal with everything. But
and just to clarify, all of the things you mentioned is what we actually did before, right? So it's like a practical ways. Okay,
yeah, exactly. And once the soft launch is being taken into action, there's different setups that can be done by custom. You can do like a 3-day access. You can do like a week access. So then it also depends on your goals. I see that when we do these kind of projects, one of the other things that we measure is the retention, right? Like for day 1 players, day 2 players, day 3 players. And that paints a picture, right? Because you can promote the game quite well with marketing to get people onto the door, but then them following up and keep playing, that's a different story. So that's like a double objective sometimes, measuring the retention, because I can already tell you if there's some issues there or not.
But thank you, gentlemen. That was a lot of valuable insights you dropped in a short amount of time. Again, I could ask you another 1,000 questions, but I think it's time to wrap it up. But thank you, Carreras and Ali, for joining today's podcast. We have to bring you back. We have to bring you back to ask you even more questions, because there's a lot of practical tips shared today. And I'm not forgetting you, Costa, as always. Thank you for being here as well. But thank you everyone for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode, and then have a great day, everyone.
And don't forget to click the bell and subscribe.
Exactly.
Which I always forget to say. So thank you, Costa.
I always say it, and I expect that it's left in the video. That if I watch the videos, because obviously I'm a genius, so I don't watch my own movies. So, but I hope that every podcast it has the final moment where I do it, because I always do it.
Yeah.